And welcome back to the next episode of the MDCP podcast. Full team on deck today. Christina Anderson, Ash Capola, Sam Burns. How are you guys?
Beautiful.
Great.
Perfect.
Fantastic.
You're all looking a bit nervous. Not sure why.
I'm not nervous. You're nervous.
Oh, you're looking twitchy there. Maybe it's because of today's topic. I don't know. Maybe. So today we thought we would cover the interesting and relevant topic, I think, of the riding the emotional roller coaster of entrepreneurship, of business, of putting yourself out there, all of the things. It is, anyone will tell you, from Elon Musk and Richard Branson to Sam, Christina, and Ash and I, that it's a roller coaster.
Yep.
Like, we're all on the roller coaster. It's, some people just might have a slightly different seat, but we're all on it. So we thought we would dig into that a little bit today.
I think that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who wants to lead off with that as we start the climb up to the top of the roller coaster, to continue that analogy, because I like that today.
We're gonna hear a lot of that, aren't we?
Yeah. It's not going to get old anytime soon today.
Beautiful. So excited. So we've spoken a lot previously about like the transition that can happen from where we begin, and I'll kind of keep this specific to as much as possible to like coaches, and like going from I am a cog. I am a very proud cog, but I'm a cog in a wheel, or I'm a wheel in a system, and I go in and I run the class and I do the good job at running the class, and everybody be proud of me and please pay me more money. And making that switch from I am provided an opportunity to do the thing to it is now my responsibility to create my own opportunities, and I can do anything. It's a big shift, right? Yeah. And we've talked many times about how it can be challenging emotionally, physically, spiritually, on a bunch of different levels. And so, like, in terms of the emotional roller coaster, we've talked about it jokingly, but like, we should probably also highlight, like, it's a real thing. Like, there are going to be highs, there are going to be lows. You're going to fluctuate back and forth between highs and lows. Like, nobody who's an entrepreneur, I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, but like, it takes a special kind of entrepreneur to be like, I'm going to do something that is totally doesn't require any emotional involvement on my behalf. Like, if you want to be like a drop shipper for Amazon, right? Like, I just want to make the money. Okay, totally valid. But I think a lot of people, and certainly coaches, are probably going to come at this from the position of, I'm really emotionally invested in this. And so because I'm emotionally invested, I'm already emotional about it. Like, right off the whack, which is, as we can all imagine, a great place to begin something like a business relationship with somebody or something.
Well, you have that initial, this is exciting, this is a big thing. And then, you start to get through the meat and bones of it, which can make it a little, this is a little bit harder. It's not quite as much fun. And then I've got this thing that's going to change the world and nobody wants it to start with, which we start the first descent down. It's like, I've built this thing. This is amazing. Let's go. And then, I've raced to the bottom and nobody wants this thing that I know will change the world.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also like, the first, your first kind of pin in, like, there's highs and lows, and those will come at different times for different people, depending on the type of person you are, right? Like, somebody might have that light bulb of like, oh, wait, I can create my own kind of entity within my affiliate already.
Yeah.
And one person might be like, that's awesome. Here I go. And somebody else might be like, cool, wait, oh my God, that's scary. Like, oh, I don't know. Right. Like, right there, of like the realization of having that power, you could have one person kind of jump off and they start their ascent and somebody else go, oh, I don't know about all this, right? Like, there it is. And that's just the beginning of it.
Yeah.
Like the decision that I'm going to be an intrapreneur, as we spoke to last week, right?
Intrapreneur, I like that.
Well, either or, it's still whether you're external or you're working internal, it's still that roller coaster. It may even be harder for some people who are working internally with an organization to bring ideas to the front and bring initiatives to the front and go, well, it's not my name on the door.
Yeah.
Someone else has still got to go yay or nay to this thing. And that can be, a daunting and scary process as well.
Well, and you are, by definition, you're seeking validation. You're asking for someone else's approval of a thing that you probably are really emotionally invested in, and you have thought long and hard about. And like, I keep thinking about like the first time everybody coaches the snatch and you're like, I did such a good job, and you're so proud of that class. And then you like somebody comes back and is like, okay, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about what just happened.
Who the first time they taught a snatch thought they did a good job? Because I'd like to meet that person and be like, you got confidence, bitch. Because the first time I coached the snatch, I was like, oh, good Lord.
Maybe not the snatch, but like there's something like, maybe it was probably more likely the air squat, where it's like, oh yeah, I rocked that. And I have vivid memories of Meg Burns, who has been on staff for 15 years or something like that, when I was interning at One Nation, running her and Sam Horenstein through a squat progression, and her just being like, just stop talking. We're going to start over again. Like that was a humbling experience. And like right up until that nanosecond, I thought I was crushing it. But like when you come up with this idea, so like intrapreneur example, you're going to go to another person and say, please like my thing. Right. And so divorcing that kind of gene deep need for acceptance and validation from the concept of, as an entrepreneur or intrapreneur, you're not always going to be successful at everything. And that's part of the process. And you have to accept that. That's a very hard transition to make.
Yeah.
And divorcing it, I guess, from, if they don't want the thing, it doesn't mean that it's about me. It's not me. It's the thing. They weren't ready for whatever it is that I was bringing to right now. It's not a reflection that I'm a shitbag human being, and I have nothing to contribute to this project organization. Well, hands up if you've never felt like that when you've put something forward and someone said no.
Right.
Absolutely. And that's like, like we said, that's the whole part of this conversation. That's the emotional investment, is like, even though we know we shouldn't, it definitely feels like a personal stab when something doesn't work the first time, even though it might have nothing to do, and it probably has nothing to do with the thing. It more has to do with how you tried to sell it or presented it, or, the timing. To Lisa, that's a very strong point, is like to try and not take things personally. In that is a huge, strategy and lesson within and of itself.
And not an easy thing to do. Like, we all sit here and go, well, still happens, but, and it's hard not to take that on board. But the risk that you run by staying on that roller coaster and staying at the bottom of the roller coaster, I guess, is going, well, it's going, Sam. Now you started me. I'm just going to stay with it now because I can. Like if you get stuck in that, well, I'm a shitbag human, I've got nothing to contribute, and so you do nothing and you just sit there. That's not going to help you either go, okay, well, what could I have done better? Which is a true skill of entrepreneurship and even intrapreneurship is, what are the lessons here? What could I have done better? I mean, if that was not, for example, when we talk about the first guys that tried to learn to fly, and I know we've used this as an example before, the wax wings melted in the sun.
Yes. If
they didn't go, well, what could be done better? We're not winging our way across the Atlantic anytime soon. Like if someone didn't go, what was the problem here? How do we improve it? Rather than just going, well, I'm a horrible person. I've got nothing to contribute. I'm out.
Right. Well, so this is apropos, and none of what I'm about to say is anything that I invented. In fact, it has someone else's name on it. Has anyone here ever heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's funny we're talking about a roller coaster and ups and downs. The Dunning-Kruger effect is literally, it looks like a roller coaster, right? So it measures a person's morale across time in their attempt to like better themselves in an effort or become better at a skill or something like that, right? And so you start kind of at the top of the roller coaster, and that position is called uninformed optimism.
Oh, yes, I have seen
yes,
this.
Yes. Okay, so you got no clue. You're happy and you're all about it, but you have no idea what you've stepped into, right?
Baby.
And then as it starts to pitch downward, right, you get to what's called informed pessimism. And once you're in informed pessimism, you're like, oh shit, this is not at all what I thought it was going to be. And that's probably like, you know, we go from like the high of I got my first client, or I made my first product, or I got my first sale or something like that, to the pessimism of like the 3 months between when you got that sale and anything else happening. And you're like, oh crap, I'm actually gonna have to do things, and it's not going to be like dollar bills rolling into my wallet like all the time on its own. Well, so once you go past informed pessimism and you get to the bottom, they actually call it the Valley of Despair, which is one of the most dramatic titles ever. So the Valley of Despair is from a morale standpoint, it's the scariest and hardest place. And that's, when we talk about highs and lows, that's the part where most people get to and they bail.
They spiral down. Yeah.
They get to the bottom and it's like, I can't do this, because they don't understand that it's a normal part of the process to get to that bottom. And then coming out of that, you bash your face against a wall, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And then coming out of that, you get to a point called informed optimism. And that informed optimism, you've come full circle, so to speak. You're back at your starting point. You have experienced the high of, you know, creating a product or getting some bit of money, and the incredible low of I'm awful. This will never work. I should have never started. No one should know me. I should go be a hermit in the woods, right? I don't know if anyone else has ever said that to themselves, but you know, I'm just going to out myself.
Like you were in my brain a couple weeks ago.
And so after it's only by sticking with it, the whole process, right? Like, so like from the beginning through the Valley of Despair, coming up through informed optimism, and finally to success and fulfillment, the requirement is you must keep moving. You must keep going, which means even when it's at its shittiest, you have to like continue to try. You have to be bad at something before you can be good at something, you know, which, and we all know this, like nobody walks into a cross. This is one of my favorite lines when talking to people about like joining OnRamp or something like this at an affiliate. Everyone's like, oh, I'm not, you know, I don't think I'm fit enough. And I always tell them, nobody walks in with a 5-minute mile and a 500-pound back squat. I've seen that 0 times, right? So like, this is where we do the fitness, right? You just got to show up and you got to keep coming. It's the same thing in this, right? It will be great, and then it'll be the worst thing ever. And if you keep going, you'll get good enough that you'll finally come out of that valley of despair.
Yeah.
Christina, you look like you're just dying to leap on, get on the roller coaster. We've got the seat. You're not right at the front. It's all good.
Christina's like, I'm on this bitch already.
I am. And this is you know, just like full disclosure to anyone listening to this, this is I'm very much in it. And as we all know, my coaching call with Lisa is right before right before this recording. And so I, you know, quite literally had to kind of wipe away some tears and come get ready to deliver this chat, which I'm happy to do, because the fact of the matter is, I think there's a lot of people, and like, not saying this is you, Sam, because I know that like you're on the roller coaster too. And
I wonder where this is going.
But I just think that there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, you know, there's going to be highs and lows, but when you want to be as successful as me, you just got to keep pushing through. And
right.
and they always report about it from the success point, from the like, I've arrived, but like life was shitty, I promise, but now I'm a billionaire. And it's like,
right.
No, you know, and so like, I'm sitting here like, well, I feel like I have to just speak up and be like, yeah, like I was just in tears because I am at the bottom of the roller coaster and I want to get off the ride and I want to go to Comfortville where I just coach classes because that's what I'm really fucking good at. I'm really good at that. Like, sorry, that was a very aggressive.
We love it.
Ironically, not the most aggressive thing so far today. So,
but the thing is, the other thing that comes to mind, and this is a metaphor from my childhood, but I hate roller coasters, hate them, real ones.
Ditto.
And so I remember when I was a child, my parents put me on a roller coaster, like one of the, the like inchworm one. And it was going around and around, and I was screaming at the top of my lungs, stop the ride. Like I was crying. It's like burned in my memory. My parents were like hiding behind the trees, and that's a whole nother podcast. If anybody knows about my relationship with my parents, you're not confused. It's just like nobody, like it was so embarrassing. But the thing is, the ride didn't stop. Yeah. I think the guy was like required to, run it for however many times because people paid money or whatever. And I was freaking the frig out. Right. And that's the thing, right? I'm in that pit of despair right now. It's a little dramatic. It's not quite that deep, but I'm there. But the roller coaster is going. Yeah. Like there is no getting off. It's gonna go back up. And I see in the future, I see in my like front vision, the hill, the incline going up. And I can't stop it. I have to just keep going. So you're absolutely right, Sam. Like I'm living it. It's true. And I feel like I say this all the time, but it's like, if anybody out there is thinking that like they're going to start an entrepreneurial venture and it's going to be like rainbows and butterflies, like it's not. Yeah. Like it's just not. However, it'll be worth every second. Well,
so it's that being compelled, isn't it? Like, and that you are like, I have this mission, I have this vision, I have this why, which if you've listened to this podcast for more than 3.0 seconds, you've heard us talk about these things that are, at the foundation of everything, that I am compelled to bring this thing to life. Yeah. Because I know, if we just talk primarily coaches, I guess, this is going to save, change, improve lives, which is why I'm a coach. Yeah. Not just a, recite pre-recorded choreography trainer type person. Like this is why I'm a coach. It's going to save and change lives. And I think, this is also one of the powerful things that, we are compelled as a group to bring this stuff to light every week on this podcast, because people appreciate the fact that, like you said, Christina, like you can listen to a million podcasts where people are like, I made $1 billion, 10 steps to get your first million, and and they talk about that tip of the iceberg, not the rest of, all the squirrely, messy, horrible stuff underneath. Yeah. But we are. And we've had, some really powerful feedback from people who listen about that it was real and authentic, and that we're not afraid to share the fact that, yes, this is $1 million coach program. Mm-hmm. I currently do not have $1 million in the bank. Yeah. And I get that. And, if any of you do, feel free to share. Happy with that. But, we're on this journey and we share it and talk about the actualities of it. But we're still here doing it because we are compelled. All of our individual businesses and projects and things that we work on, but we're compelled to put them, to breathe life into them, because we know, it has to exist. Yeah. If you're just doing something going, if I do this, I'm going to make $1 billion. That's not something that's going to help you when you're in that valley of despair or heading for another upside down loop-de-loop where you think, oh, I'm about to lose my phone, my keys, and my lunch. Like, that's not going to keep you going through that. You're hitting the emergency brake and went, can the fire department come and get me down? I'd really like to come down now. I'm done.
Well, and to Christina's point, first of all, I agree. Everybody loves to talk about the ride after they're at the part with like the confetti and the fireworks. I think two things are going on. Like nobody talks about the Valley of Despair because it breaks people. Like, so it's, and I don't know if you're aware, I hope you're aware, it takes a person of tremendous emotional awareness and strength to sit where you are and then to talk publicly about that, right? I don't think most people have that capacity, which is part of the reason why they don't do that, right? They're literally being broken. And in the middle of your being broken, you can then turn a camera on yourself and be like, let me talk about my broken, right? That's incredible, right? And so like that deserves to be said out loud. The other thing is, and we all know this, everybody loves a highlight reel, right? Everybody wants the really well produced Instagram reel that shows the car and the party and all of the other stuff. It's very unsexy to show like actuarial tables or like some other very necessary businessy thing that is 100% critical to your success, but that nobody has any like kind of draw towards. And I think that if we want to help people to create a path where they can see where they are, truthfully see where they are, and then chart a course to a better future of their own making, then we can't not talk about these things, right? And like in terms of providing people resources, like don't do this in a vacuum. We've talked before about like getting mentors and stuff like this, but like we've also said you should tell people about your stuff. This is a project. I'm doing this. I want to put this out to the world. It's not just because you need to advertise, because you do, but also like tell your friends, tell your family so that you can help to create a supportive network around you, right? So that when you do inevitably be, pitching face first at high speed through informed pessimism and into the valley of despair, you've got a group of people who believe in you when you cannot believe in yourself. And they're going to hold you up and they're going to say, hey, it's going to be okay. We know. My wife says this shit to me all the time. She's like, you can't see it, right? But we're going to go with what I see because you are physically fucking incapable of seeing anything positive at this moment, right? And so like, we can talk about more realistic expectations here. And if you listen to this, hopefully you get a better understanding of realistic expectations, but also like, and probably good advice for life in general is you should have real deep relationships and you should, create a support system. You should take time for yourself and practice things that are going to make you happy and healthy.
And it's having that person, I remember something that happened at the CrossFit Games many years ago where the athletes were blowing up about no reps. It was the ring handstand push-ups. Let's never talk about those again.
Real.
Someone called Boz over just blowing up and he goes, I think I'm going to listen to the person whose heart rate's not at 220 to make the informed decision about what's happening out here rather than, like you said, Sam, someone who's in the midst. And that is, and again, if you've listened to this podcast for more than 3 seconds, the value of a coach is that they will believe in you and say things will work out, but they're also not emotionally attached to the outcome, and they can, as you guys will attest, we'll just ask you, well, why is that something you want to pursue right now? Yeah. What are you avoiding? What are you being distracted by? What's the thing you're afraid of most?
Right.
And rather than just going, that's a swell idea, let's go down that path and this path and that path, and suddenly it looks like you're not on a roller coaster anymore, but you're on a Mario Kart track, just going left, right, and dodging red shells, because it's fun.
Yeah.
It's what's the thing that you want most? Let's keep you heading towards that. And where it's sometimes with family and friends, you can feel a bit silly about, saying what it is that you want to bring to life and think, they're just going to think I'm a bit of a knob because I'm blowing my own trumpet or da-da-da. It's like you can say it to a coach, like, this is what I really want to be. And they're going to go, cool, let's get after it.
Yeah.
As long as it's not doing any harm to anyone, like let's get it. Let's go.
Yeah.
So that's the power of those relationships, Sam. I agree.
Oh, and I love that you said, let's keep you moving towards your goals, not let's get you to your goals. Right. Which is, and like another thing that I have a hard time doing this is when I'm in the middle of pessimism or a valley of despair type feeling, it's very hard for me to step back even a little bit and see that I have made progress. Right. So like we talked about like the person who gets their first sale. I created money out of nothing. Like I did that. That was a win. Right. But as soon as I got to any kind of difficulty, I forgot the win. And like small victories that progress you toward your goals deserve to be celebrated. Like we can be mindful of our, like where we are in the process and not shit on ourselves because we're not at the end with the villa in Florida or whatever the hell it is that rich people buy. I don't know.
And
you know,
Dan Sullivan talks a lot about that concept of the gap and the gain. So, you know, when we're living in the gap, it's like, oh my God, I've got so far to, you know, I need to get 60 clients. Well, I've got 3. Oh, I've got 57 more to go. I've got so far to go. But when I'm living in the gain is like, I've got 3 clients. This is amazing. I'm on my way. And it's when you get stuck in that, and he's got an excellent book about it, but when you get stuck in that gap thinking, it can really overwhelm you and paralyze you with, here's my goal, here's where I want to go.
Yeah.
Which is the coach is going to go, but let's look at the data. Like you've already achieved, you've shown proven track record that you can create money out of thin air. Yeah. So let's just repeat and remind you of the successful actions you took to get there, and let's repeat those successful actions.
Right. Well, and here's a great little thought exercise for everyone here, but also for anyone who's listening. Like, how do you define success? Right. So let me give you an example. I am not successful when I have a monthly paycheck with 5 zeros on it, right? That is a negative definition for success. And by that, I mean everything short of that is a failure, right? That's just, I set the standard. And because I'm not there yet, I'm always below baseline, right? An emotional example would be like, I have a boss, right? I know I'm doing a good job when my boss isn't angry at me. That's a negative definition for what should be a positive thing, right? And so at that point, it's like, well, I'm either barely existing or everything's shit. And it's like there's only two in between, as opposed to with the boss example, I know what my roles and responsibilities are. I've mapped out my roles and responsibilities that are going to help me, you know, help us hit our KPIs or whatever. I am doing the things that I know I need to do. That's a positive definition, and defined in terms that I can control, right? And going back to an entrepreneurial or intrapreneur definition, instead of I'm not at 5 zeros in my bank account, it's I added X amount of revenue this month, positive definition. I added 3 clients this month, positive definition, right? And so don't set the side. Like we could talk about realistic expectations, but like just by changing the framework from where the position from which you look at what we're tracking, you can have a powerful change in how it feels.
And it's that emotion then in how it feels will fuel you to continue to move forward. So you can either feel like you're that horrible human that is a failure, so that makes you more likely to want to sit and continue to be said horrible human, like self-fulfilling prophecy. Whereas if you feel like you're someone who is making progress and pushing forward, you are actually going to do that. People like us do things like this. You create that identity, you do the things.
Yeah.
It's that big shift. And I guess, you know, part of this conversation is, you know, to help the people who are watching and listening is, you know, how do they start to really recognize like, oh, this is where I am on this particular journey. How do I start to, you know, flip things around to get to where I want to be? And we're talking about, you know, you were talking about realistic expectations, Sam. Like any goal you want to set is not out of the realm of possibility.
Absolutely.
I mean, if I said I wanted to make $1 million by next week, it'd be a hard ask, but if I pulled the right levers, I'm sure that, you know, and really dedicated 24/7 to it, then something would happen. But it's not unreasonable.
I love that story. I had a discussion with a client recently, and this client is someone who works at a gym, and they were concerned about the perception that their owner had of them doing their job, right? And you know where that comes from, and why this person is afraid of disappointing their owner, and you know what that's going to do. Because if the owner's disappointed, then the owner is going to, create an environment where that person doesn't feel welcome and that person doesn't want to be in an environment like that. And so they would have to leave. Right. And like, then everything falls apart. And I looked at this person and I said, and like, I'm not trying to minimize what they're speaking about, because it's very real. But at the end of the day, like, let's say, for example, anyone who's worked in a gym, right? So you've got your nice, safe, secure job, and you're not thinking anything entrepreneurial. The next day, your owner comes in and is like, "We're going to be a spin studio. You're fired." You got no control over that, right? So automatically, without any of the emotional turmoil of like worrying about what that person thinks about you, you're in that position. You would figure it out. You wouldn't just curl up into a ball. You'd be like, shit. It's like, okay, you'd roll your sleeves up and you'd go to work, right? The emotional turmoil that like preceded all of that doesn't help how we approach thinking about that. But at the end of the day, like, to your point about the $1 million, it's like, cool. How hard do you want to work? And shifting from I can't do this to how hard can I work is a massive shift, right? And it's terrifying at the same time, because most of us are conditioned to think about like revenue in terms of scarcity. How much can I save? As opposed to what can I do to generate more?
And understanding that you've got the power to do that. Like and that can be scary. And that can be, when we talk about limiting self-beliefs and imposter syndrome, and then all of a sudden, you get stopped by this big shadowy figure in right in front of you going, who are you to get $1 million? Like, how are you to create that? Like, you're not a magician or whatever it is. But, when we can truly embrace and understand, and I think I said these words maybe, on a call earlier, which shall remain nameless, but, by being an entrepreneur, is that you're at the precipice of being able to create the life that you want. You can create anything you want. You are truly have the power to set your course for wherever it is you want to be. And that's a amazing position to be in, rather than, like you said, Sam, someone who's just going to curl up into a ball and go, well, they took my job away. Now I don't know what to do. I now don't do anything, rather than, okay, well, how hard do you want to work? What do I want to create? And we're driving the car. Like you've got the vehicle, you're in charge. You're not on this free-falling roller coaster now. You're in charge.
Which is not at all terrifying.
No, totally. It's fine. You just get on that and you just start, and it's fine. It's easy. But, embracing that thought that you have ultimate control.
Yeah. And I think like just this kind of mentality of like framing that, like the positive side of things, like, it's just it's so easy to look at these daunting tasks, and we're speaking in the terms of, an entrepreneurial business venture, but it also kind of makes me think of the clients that I work with that are seeking to pass the level 3 certification exam for CrossFit coaching. And, every time I speak to one of my clients who's studying, I really emphasize, what did you apply from your learning this week in your gym? And I make them like repeat to me instances that happened that were good, of like, oh my gosh, like I read this thing about type 1 diabetes, and then I have a member with type 1 diabetes, and I was able to like connect it, and I was able to have this amazing thing. Because what I'm trying to do is plant these little seeds into their mind of, because the fact of the matter is, as described earlier, I'm pretty great, but like I can't make you pass a test.
The most
right?
humble.
So I can't help you. I can help you create the habits that you need to do in order to do what needs to be done to pass the test, but I can't pass a test for you. But at the end of that, even in Lisa's venture to get $1 million by next Tuesday, in your venture to potentially pass the level 3 examination, may or may not succeed that specific goal on the specific date that you set, but how much better are you getting in the journey towards that, right? Like, how much money is Lisa going to make between now and next Tuesday? How much better of a coach are you going to become simply by investing in yourself and trying to take this examination, right? How much better of an entrepreneur are you going to become by doing the thing and getting on the roller coaster, knowing that it may not be exactly each step that you planned as you planned it. Like, the flag's going to move, it's going to change colors. It's, it's just, you don't know, but you're on for the ride, And so you have to just realize that's it. Like, you just have to be all in for the good, the bad, the ugly, and realize that even the things that seem kind of bad might even end up being pretty good.
Yeah.
Because you never know, but you have to stick it out and you have to see it through.
Yeah. Elon Musk says something similar. He says, like Lisa wants to, so, apples and apples. Lisa,
I'm getting twitchy now.
Lisa wants to make $1 million by next Tuesday. Like, everyone's like, oh, well, that's insane. Elon Musk will be like, cool, how long is this project going to take? And they'll be like, 10 years. He's like, good. I want it done in a year. Right. And everyone's like, you're batshit. But what he has learned in attempting to do that is you go so much further in a year than almost anybody who tries to do it on a 10-year time scale. Right.
Well, how many people have a work assignment to do or a homework assignment, and you've got 3 weeks to do it? And when do you do your best work? Usually the last 2 hours before it's due.
I haven't been in school in a long time, but I got to feel I'm going to call bullshit on that. Nobody does their best work.
No.
Well,
they do their most work.
Yeah, that's probably more accurate. And at that point, your most work is your best work because it's the only work that's getting done, right?
Yeah.
But like and I love the way Christina phrased this. Like, you can swing for the fences, right? Get the big, hairy, audacious goal. You are going to learn more in the pursuit. This is what I tell people when we talk about handstands in class. Well, I'm never going to handstand walk. Why would I want to do this? Because you will garner a fitness in the pursuit of a handstand that you will not get avoiding it entirely. You might never get to the handstand, but you're going to get to a level of fitness that can only be achieved through the pursuit of something like a handstand, something like being inverted, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, if you never set the big, hairy, audacious goal and never attempt to go for it, then you're shortchanging what you could be getting out of it.
And I think, as we move towards wrapping this one up, I think that, that's a really good, point, is that, you can set your own goal and it can be whatever it has to be. But, the bigger the challenge, the more you're going to be invested in, if it means that much to you and it's that meaningful and it's that important, then you're going to be way more invested than doing something that's, super easy and cruisy.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I could just do this anytime. Whereas, and we go back to talking about what we mentioned earlier, that you're compelled to bring this thing to life.
Yeah.
And if you look at your why and understand, what's behind that, the what's behind the why, you understand, everything that goes into that why, and leave yourself with no option but to take the action, you're going to go a lot further forward.
Yeah.
Than just wishing something came to life without doing anything, because that usually doesn't work really well in my experience. Not sure about anyone else, but
never experienced that.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts, Christina?
Just, it's worth it. It's worth it because not only is it 100% possible to build exactly the life that you want, but like in that journey, again, in all the highs, the lows, the good, the bad, the ugly, man, I feel like some of the best people I've met in my life that I truly value, that I truly love, are the people who are in the arena, whatever their arena looks like. Just the people who like weren't afraid to get on the ride, and see what happens. And I just think that regardless of the outcome, you become a better person, you change your life, you start to believe in yourself. And I don't know. I just think it's worth it. It's all worth it, even though I'm in the pit of despair.
Buy your ticket. Yeah, I don't know that that's selling it at the end. Ash, have you got any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, kind of piggyback off and maybe like tie a little of CrossFit into this. You know, we all believe in we do hard things in like this controlled environment of our CrossFit gym because we finish it and we realize we were able to do more than we thought we could do. Yeah. Right. So then we as coaches take this journey to be entrepreneurs, and you get to this valley of despair. And do we ever just like walk away from a workout and go, nah, that's it, I'm done with CrossFit forever? Like, no, we've stuck to it because we believe in it. So you're in that valley, and it's like, it might not seem like you can even see the hill going back up, but and again, and here's another plug, like this is what a coach is for. They're going to help you find that hill and get back up it, because it can feel very lonely down there. And, like we've all known in those tough workouts like Murph and stuff, if you get in your own head, you're in a lot of trouble. You have to continue to move forward. Yeah. So trust yourself, trust your why, and just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Perfect. Sam?
Do both of those things. Get on the ride, buy the ticket, get on the ride, trust yourself. And if you can, surround yourself with people who will believe in you, even when you are incapable of doing so.
Perfect. And on that note, please subscribe, share this with a coach that you think will get some value from it, whether it's on your Audible platforms. Leave us a review. We don't have any reviews, but it would be cool to get some reviews on the platforms that you follow us and subscribe. And don't forget to follow us on our Instagram account at FitFilliate. We've moved all our content over there, where you can see all of the FitFilliate content, including our amazing little podcast. So thank you, team, for your contribution today, and I look forward to another fun chat next week.
Woohoo! Woo.